How are you all doing? Awesome. Me too. I'm also doing good. The weather is not too bad today. Well, a little bit chilly, but nothing disastrous happened. So, yeah. And here we are all together now.
Yay!
So, my name is Jenny Liu. I grew up in New York City at 31 Rose Street.
My name is Ashani Kotige. I grew up in Colombo, Sri Lanka at 112/3 Rosamond Place.
My name is Healy Knight. I grew up in New Haven, Connecticut at 210 St. Ronan Street. Hi. Hi, I'm Healy. What's your name?
Claudia.
Claudia. Nice to meet you, Claudia. Can you tell me about a place where you grew up?
Yeah, I grew up in Westport, Connecticut.
No way.
Yeah.
So close. I've shopped there a lot. Can you all say hi to Claudia? Hello, Claudia. Why don't we all take a moment to say hello to one another? Turn to a neighbor, introduce yourself, and tell them about a place where you grew up. Now, please turn to a different person and tell them how you got here tonight.
Oh, is that what I don't
Hey, thank you so much, everyone, both for showing up tonight and watching us, and also for taking the time to talk to one another.
Our work requires it. And if you haven't already, would you please turn off your cell phones? Thank you. And there will not be an emergency, but if there is an emergency, there are exits here and here and here and here. So use those, but you won't need to.
Thank you. And since we've been telling audiences in the theater what not to do for far, far too long, and prioritizing silence over reaction,
Restriction over invitation.
We also want to say to you this.
tonight we hope you'll feel free to engage authentically and collectively.
By show of hands, how many of you feel like you have some kind of a relationship with grass? Maybe you grew up in a home with grass?
Oh, you do.
Or a lawn? Raise your hand. Thank you. When I first saw my backyard, it was a bare red clay plot. My siblings and I would play in the bald yard when there were warm summer rains and on cool summer days. We'd make mud pies and bake them in the hot sun and then use those bricks to build low walls around the small perimeter. One time we got this genius idea to splatter muddy clay all over the backyard. We took these dense handfuls from the ground and slugged them at the garage door, the windows, the side of the house, the pavement. We ran in and out the back doors. My mother napped, just hauling buckets of water to wet more clay. Red clay caked the entire backyard. Our hair was smeared over our bodies and tracked all through the house. My mother awoke from her nap furious. Later that summer, we cured the clay, tilled it, mixed in a whole bunch of other soils, and added nutrients, strange gray matter. We laid out rectangles of grass across a small plot, giving our yard a new dew. My siblings and I watched from the window for hours. We waited ages for our yard to get used to its new self. When I finally stepped barefoot onto our new lawn, my toes dancing in the cool blue-green blades, I forgot all about the red clay beneath it. The childhood backyards have that effect. I want to try something. Will you all close your eyes? I'll let you know when we can open them. We'll be here about 3 minutes. As you close your eyes, allow
background to fade and focus solely on my voice. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Imagine the body of grass you have a history with. Paint a clear picture of it for yourself. What do you remember about it? How big was it? Can you see the edge? How big are you? Imagine yourself standing on it. What does it feel like beneath your feet? What does it sound like? Smell like? Remember a time when you felt alive, wild even in this place, standing on this slice of earth. What were you doing? Was anyone with you? Take time now to recall this moment in as much detail as possible. Listen. Now imagine that it is very, very early in the morning. It is early in the morning, and you are standing on the grass. Or maybe you decide to cross the street. Yes, there's a street, and you decide to cross over it. Now, you are standing across the street, watching the grass. Open your eyes.
Jose, California, there is a pale, pink, Victorian house on a hill. This is where I grew up. There's a tree in our front yard at the outer limits of the lawn, the weeping cherry. You step inside of its branches and you feel like you're in a forest room. It's like being held. But this tree meant more than serenity and comfort for the 5 of us kids. It meant emergency. Growing up, my parents, as most parents do, set a number of safety procedures. We all knew where the go bag was. My dad even made up a song for us to remember our home phone number. And though we were assured many times over that the likelihood of a fire happening was extremely low, we still had to know what to do just in case. The standard stop, drop, and roll, take nothing with you, and get out the house as quickly and efficiently as possible. The final step for us was to run down the hill and get our hands to the trunk of the cherry tree. Once you were there, you were glued to it. No matter if you're the first or the last to get there, once you're there, you don't move. While it's sort of frightening to imagine a scenario in which my family would have to run out of our house through smoke and flames, the idea of having to roar across my way through a fire, maybe picking up a baby sibling, knocking down the front door and running to the cherry tree was kind of exciting. I was scared, but I was ready. One day, it was very, very early in the morning. I was 8 years old. A sound shot through the house. I lunged forward in bed. This is it. This is what we trained for. I blast out of my room, run through the halls and down the narrow staircase so fast and so efficiently, I feel like I'm flying. And just as I'm about to burst through the front door, I realize I don't hear any footsteps following me. Going against protocol, I run back upstairs to my brother's room. Guys, my sister scrambles past. Get up! The fire alarm! I'm still the first to the cherry tree, and once I'm there, I'm glued to it. The sound of the alarm was quieter once my sister and I were outside, but my ears were still ringing. I strained to see where the flames that had set off the alarm was coming from, to see if there was any smoke. The house looked eerily normal. No flames, no tower of smoke, no smell, other than the branches of the cherry tree. My mom appeared suddenly, followed by my 2 brothers who sat in the grass far from the tree. This was not the plan. And my baby brother and my father still hadn't come out the house. More minute hours passed. And finally they appeared. When the fire department came, they told us it was carbon monoxide. I felt my hands shake against the rough bark of the cherry tree. I took my first deep breath in and felt that cherry tree breathe with me.
We've got something. Now, a new sound. Very melodic. A good, solid sound. The music, the instruments, the voices, and it's ready to go. Now, play it. Not bad. Different. Let's continue with the development. To further enhance the sound, we'll add 10 notes to make it rich, memorable, a bigger, more important sound. And it's ready to go. Ready, go.
Valley Park, Pennsylvania. A few scant blocks from the home of my childhood best friend, Joe Petrucci. It was the perfect place for two boys who wanted nothing more than a life of adventure. We would race down the street and across the steel and concrete bridge, diving off the paved path. And as we ran, we ceased to be kids in school uniforms. A little sweatier and more mosquito-bitten than we'd have liked. We were legends. Knights wielding swords with names and legacies. Chosen heroes determined to drive back the darkness encroaching from all sides. Jedi with powers and wisdom to rival the greatest of our order. A small bandstand, half hidden by trees, was an ancient temple of mystical import. The rock wall, where we found a salamander once, was the crumbling ruins of a castle, holding the secret we needed to complete our mission. We were kings. And the park was our kingdom!
easiest ways I know to get punched in the face are to insult someone's religion or to say you love your lawn. Well, poking fun at someone's faith is not my thing, but I am prepared to be here right now in front of you and proudly proclaim, I love this country and I love my lawn. Many of you are probably wondering what all the hubbub's about. Is there something wrong with having a lawn? The same lawn where we hold family gatherings, where our children run and play, where we play catch and lay down and look at the sky. There's a problem with this lawn? Well, a lot of people think so. They rage against the all-American lawn as an environmental horror, blaming it for polluting our water, polluting our air, and killing this country with chemicals and cancer. No one should waste so much water, fertilizer, or energy on any lawn of any size, they insist. We should cover our yards with pasture, meadow, mulch, gravel, native plants, even artificial turf. Let your yard go brown. Surely you agree. Yeah, well, I do not. Nope. I love cut grass. Okay, and not the kind that lawn haters smoke, okay? Do people water and fertilize their yard too much? Sure. Do they douse it with too much pesticide? Absolutely. Do they miss out on more interesting plants when they devote their whole yards to lawn? Affirmative. Do big lawns belong in bone-dry regions? No way. But that's only telling you one side of the story. I mean, how many experts are brave enough to tell you what's good about a lawn? Just one that I know. Me. Our soft, silky carpets of green have made this country the envy of the world. I love this country, and I love my lawn. There, I've said it again. Now, if you don't hear from me again, I've been silenced by anti-lawn conspirators who hate our freedom. But that probably won't happen. You can't silence the truth.
Things people do on lawns. They lay out towels and bring out a book to read and a glass of water or lemonade and lay out and read and drink.
They learn how to play catch and how to throw a baseball. They learn how to do handstands and cartwheels.
They install sprinklers or put out sprinklers like the ones that look like a wave, and they do sprinkler things or things with hoses, slip and slide.
They toss lawn darts, but not the ones that are banned now. They toss green bags and coin the hole and have contests and declare the ultimate winner.
They pick up pine cones. They get a penny for every pine cone they pick up. They let their dog outside and pick up dog poop.
They rake leaves or swing on hammocks or tire swings or swing sets.
They host birthday parties and graduation parties and
freestyle.
parties for first communion and host wedding receptions and fire up the grills.
Sometimes they take the oil they use to cook outside and deposit it on the lawn so as to avoid clogging up the kitchen pipes.
I shaved my legs outside when there wasn't enough room in the bathroom because there were so many girls growing up in my house. Some of us would take a bucket and go outside and shave our legs on the lawn.
You too?
They bury things.
They make dances.
They dig holes.
They mow.
They set up tents.
They unkin cozies.
They plant.
They smoke weed.
They play pretend.
They think about
They
things.
drink beer.
They roll their bodies.
They watch squirrels.
They eat.
They stargate.
They dig out
They look
worms.
at their neighbors.
They put up bird feeders.
They watch cars go by.
They put American flags on the ground.
They post campaign signs.
After work is the thing people do on lawns.
High heels can get stuck in the lawn.
They put on plays, throw water balloons, smash bugs, rake leaves, make out, blow dandelions, get dropped off, get picked up, have public fights, perform for neighbors, perform gender, bird watch, wait for the fairies, hide and seek, cut wood, blow baubles, vomit, tie-dye, hit your brother, selfies, picnics, swing sets, photo shoots, sunbathe, sunscreen, yard sales, dance, feathering, the different cake, bug spray, grass walking, hacky sack, trick-or-treating, decorations, smash bugs, fireflies, concerts, popsicles, graves, statues, rocks, sneaks, eat, drink, sleep, garden, weed, plant, trap, hot smoke, chip toss, give, let, take,
you pretend the lawn won't call you back again. And I know where I live in a lovely image, romanticized in your mind. Bright shades and paisley fill up your eyes, where fiction abides with darkness that hides entirely within plain sight. It's the girl who mixes her hair up in my plaits, the couple who's thinking they're alone in the parade. I see you shut your eyes as you pretend the lawn won't call you back again. So to the girl who mixes her hair up in my plates, the couple is thinking they're alone in the parade. I see you shut your eyes as you pretend the lawn won't call you.
Staring out from the porch of my house in Columbus, Ohio on a late spring morning a few years ago, not long after I purchased the property, I noticed something disturbing about my yard. I became fixated on a bald patch of ground in the shade where the grass had retreated and where the lawn had come to favor dull green moss mixed with clover and creeping Charlie. My neighbor warned me. An invasive, aggressive species that would soon devour my lawn. The usual junk in my mailbox, and there was lots of it that spring, suddenly seemed more interesting to me. Yet millions of colorful flyers with a staggering range of options available to me to deal with the idiosyncratic qualities of my lawn. Mostly a labyrinth of step programs with millions of options to help me rid myself of my unwanted lawn visitors. What disturbed me is that these procedures began to linger in my mind. When I lay in bed at night, my lawn was keeping me awake. As a self-described environmentalist with absolutely no interest in gardening or home maintenance, I felt a twinge of guilt and anxiety. This became most acute when, in the middle of the night, when no one was watching, I found myself applying chemicals to my lawn. Something disturbing was happening. This thing I made, this thing I used to have some kind of power over, was turning me into... I was becoming a slightly different kind of person. A sort of lawn person.
Why don't you think I'm pretty? I hear you talking to your friends when you're grilling your steak tips, or the sliced eggplants you love so dearly. Eggplants are the vegetables with the highest level of nicotine. That's why I can't stop eating them. It's what you always say. You sip your gin, you talk to Jason about going to dump, you pat the dog on the head, and when you head back inside with food for the family, you stumble on a stone and look down. You see me, creeping through the cracks, between the pathway you just laid down 3 weeks ago, and you swear, you cuss underneath your breath, you yell into the house, "Peter! Pete! Pull out those your front walkway!" Pete says, "Whatever, Dad, jeez." And he clomps outside, tearing at my tendrils, throwing them to the side, he too cussing underneath his breath. While the dog sits on me, quiet and still, and watches me with his eyebrows raised.
So, why don't you think I'm pretty?
You're late.
We're here now.
Things people don't do on lawns. Be naked. Go to the bathroom. Sex. Usually. Don't brush your teeth. Don't hit your brother. Don't sleep. Don't hunt. Don't build a cabinet. No, I did that.
That's terrible.
And you don't store screws on the lawn. And you don't clean jewelry on the lawn. And you don't break glass. And you don't set off fireworks.
No, wait, my family did that.
Shame on you! You don't leave top on the lawn. That's a rule. You don't leave stuff on the lawn. That's a crime. You don't leave leaves on the lawn. That's You don't play basketball. You have to play a different sport. Play soccer. You don't walk on someone's lawn you're not supposed to. You'll get yelled at. You don't leave guinea pigs on the lawn. Because they'll get eaten. Don't get dressed for the day. Don't birth a child. Don't watch TV. Don't make sandcastles. Don't hit your partner. Don't do your makeup. Don't play your music too loud. Don't step out of line. Don't hold trial. Don't spank. Don't scream. Don't lie. Don't use too much water. Don't disobey your father. Don't disappoint your neighbor. Don't touch yourself. Don't jump the fence. Don't cross the line. Don't go too far. Don't go brown. Don't go to sea. Don't grow too tall. You can't. I won't. We don't. None of these things happen on the lawn. Not here. Never here. No way. Nope. Nope. Don't. No. Woo! And some things you do on the lawn. And some other things you do in the park. Because the park has trees. And some things you do inside. And some things you never do at all. Because you never know who is watching.
Oh, lay me down in forest lawn in a silver casket. Put golden flowers over my head in a silver basket. Let the drum and bugle call, blow taps while cannons roar. Let 16 liveried employees pass out souvenirs from the funeral store. I want to go simply when I go, and they'll give me a simple funeral there, I know. With the casket lined in fleece and fireworks spelling out a rest in peace. So take me when I'm gone to Forest Lawn. Oh, lay me down in Forest Lawn. They understand there, and they have a heavenly choir and a military band there. Just put me in their care, and I find my comfort there. With 16 planes in the last salute, dropping across in a parachute. I want to go simply when I go, and they'll give me a simple funeral there, I know. With 100 strolling strings and topless dances and gold.
Fuck! I'm trying to be good, to be clean, to consider the planet and my place on it. The damage I'm doing just by being alive, but sometimes I just want to be like, I'm trying to live here. I'm trying to live. I just want to be alive, but every day I wake up and I feel bad. I feel like I'm participating in some mass extinction of species simply by being alive. I don't want to live like that. Be a good citizen, a good consumer, a good environmental steward. This fucking twisted triangle of impossible being. I'm trying. No, really I am. I'm listening to podcasts, I'm talking to people, I'm reading articles, I'm composting. I'm devouring books on climate, I'm having crazy dreams about plastic and species evolving into plastic-eating monsters. Oh yeah, it's already happening. And it's keeping me awake. And I just feel like the more I learn, the less I understand what is right and what is wrong. Most of the time, it seems like the thing I was told to do
the thing I understood would actually make a difference, like don't waste paper, or ride your bike instead, or don't wear sunscreen and swim in the ocean. It's actually like the total opposite of what would help the planet. It breaks my heart how impossible it all is. I can't make sense of it. I don't even have the time to deal with this web of solutions. I have a job, and I have kids, and I have parents, and grandparents, and errands, and jury duty, and no health care, and I am failing. I'm failing at this. I'm failing my mother. I'm failing you. I'm failing this place. I'm failing all the people who came before me. I'm failing the bees, the reindeer, and the coral. I can't compromise because I don't even know which compromises to make.
Sheriff's side, and when that sheriff said, "I'm sending you to jail," Wildcat raised his head and cried, "Oh, give me land, lots of land under starry skies above. Don't fence me in, let me ride through the wide open country that I love. Don't fence me in, let me be by myself in the evening breeze. Listen to the murmur of the cottonwood trees. Send me off forever, but I ask you please, don't fence me in, just turn me loose. Let me straddle my old saddle underneath the western skies. On my cayuse, let me wander over yonder till I see the mountains rise. I wanna ride to the ridge where the west commences and gaze at the moon until I lose my senses. I can't look at hobbles and I can't stand fences. Don't fence me in. Give me land, lots of land, under starry skies. Don't fence me in, let me ride through the wide country that I love. Don't fence me in, let me be by myself in the evening breeze. Listen to the murmur of the cottonwood trees. Send me off forever, let you please. Don't fence me in.
was talking to my friend Savannah yesterday. We were sitting here, just there, and I was trying to tell her about this planet's, the urgency, the crisis part of climate change, and I just needed somebody to listen. And Savannah is very understanding. Her empathy level is really high. She's the kind of person who would empathize with the end of the planet, you know? Or at least, for being real, the end of Homo sapiens. Anyway, I was trying to tell her about the end of us, and she was like, apocalypse is a privileged narrative. So I was like, what? She said, no, it is, because a lot of people, especially the people who've contributed least to the climate crisis and who are most affected by it, they don't have the luxury of choice. Because when you're worried about access to clean water or getting shot or dying from heat stroke because there's no AC, you don't really have time to choose between surviving and making the responsible choice for our species and other species. And I thought, fuck. Right. I just want to be alive.
approximately 3,000 blades in a square foot of grass. This is dependent on the species of grass, but generally 3,000. There are more than 9,000 species in the Gramineae plant family. More than 9,000 grass, there are horizons of silt and sand and clay, organic matter, water, air, sometimes plastic, cement, lumber. There could be worms living in the soil and the grass, and if it has just rained, maybe they have surfaced, and now they're wriggling through those blades of grass. Ants have been known to be marching through, usually on their way to a picnic or escaping a nearby magnifying glass. There are these things called lawn grubs, sometimes called white grubs. They're baby versions of scarab beetles, like June bugs. They're these little C-shaped creatures that feed on grass roots and cause sections of the grass on the lawn to die. Eventually, they grow, leave the lawn, mate, lay more eggs. But mainly, people just call them pests.
In the winter, snow can accumulate on the grass. I know it's not living, but it's beautiful. And I like to imagine thousands and thousands of snowflakes balancing like champagne glasses, held up by those blades of grass.
Wildflowers, dandelions, clover, ladybugs, grasshoppers, spiders, wood louses,
and bees, moles, voles, gophers, and ground squirrels. They are known to dig in the grass. Fleas, ticks, snails, and slugs, and mosquitoes. Bacteria could be there too. Or a fungus, like mushrooms. Depending on where this square foot of grass is. If it's in the shade or a damp climate.
If it's here, I can be there too. Standing with my 2 feet in a 1 foot by 1 foot patch of grass. I would be converted to a religion of grass. Sleep the winter away and rise headlong in the spring. Sink deep roots. Conserve water. Respect and nourish your neighbors, and never let trees gain the upper hand.
Such are the tenets and dogmas.
As for the practices, grow lush in order to be devoured or caressed, stiffen in sweet elegance, invent startling seeds. These also make sense. Bow under the arm of fire. Connect underground. Provide. Provide. Be lovely
lot of history. There's a lot of history between us. I remember when you understood me, and I you. When I tried loving you, felt you loving me back. There was a time you stood staring up at the stars next to your father as he taught you how to play with those silly fire leaf sticks. You felt me beneath you, and I felt you above me. And we both stared out into the vastness, wondering what time had in store for us. The night you dreamt of me covered in dew and flowers not yet fully bloomed, and in your dream an owl swooped and landed on me for telling things you didn't understand. We spoke honestly for the first time. The late August night you threw yourself out onto me in silent anguish. You couldn't sleep. You wept. And I comforted you.
dark and spotted with fireflies. On summer nights, Dad would take me on rides around the neighborhood in his famous red scooter. Going fast, the fireflies would become little blurs. But when we finally reached stillness in the driveway, I'd turn around and see them just floating there, blinking, drifting like fairies. I remember my lawn, and it was light and alive with dragonflies. In 3rd grade, I decided to track the sorts of dragonflies, the same every year because nothing ever dies dragonflies that would fly around my yard every spring. I needed a buddy to help me with my task, so I called up Brianna and my line to hers, and she came running over. I took very important notes in my handy-dandy notebook while Brianna danced around, chasing the dragonflies, rolling around in the grass. I wrote down where they like to fly, who they like to fly with, how fast they like to fly, what color they were, how big they were, how small they were, how old I thought they were. And after identifying and tracking all of our dragonfly friends, me and Brianna could enjoy playing with them all spring
and into the summer. This past summer, I was sitting on my porch back home, looking out at my lawn, and suddenly, a red dragonfly landed on my arm and just stayed there, unafraid. I whispered, "Hi, Ruby." But it felt different. Somehow I was no longer responsible for these little creatures. I had left that behind. And I felt suddenly desperate to go back to those days when me and Brianna would chase the dragonflies around my lawn. When we were wild and rooted, a part of something larger than ourselves.
Council to offer this land acknowledgement. We stand in solidarity with them, and we thank you for joining us in reimagining relationship to the earth and its indigenous stewards.
Finally, we'd like to invite you all to join us in the lobby. We've organized a few ways for you to respond to the performance or just to hang out with us. Either way, we're so excited to see you. Thank you and good night.
Thank you so much.